First, Nagi comes across as pretty generic aside from its wonderful aesthetic. The story is a standard romance romp with all the tropes ticked off. You've got forbidden love, loudmouth middle schoolers, characters who hide away their feelings, characters who maybe should hide away their feelings a little more. The whole freaking Monty is on display here. Wait a minute. Who wrote this again? Oh, well, I would explain this goddamn who loves who spaghetti bowl. Jesus. I'm joking, you know. And I beat on Mari Okada's writing a little bit in my Anthem of the Heart review, but you'll also remember that I stated that Anthem of the Heart should have been a full series instead of a movie, and, well, here we are. Anyway, here's the basics of the story. You got these people that live underwater and these people that live above water. These two regions don't exactly jive with each other super well, which causes most of the driving conflict in the first half of this series. One day, the underwater school closes, and the four main characters are forced to attend school on land. Once they get up there, girl meets boy, misunderstandings happen, and you know the drill. Hold on. I literally just thought of this as I was drawing up this review. Where the hell are all the other ocean middle schoolers? You mean to tell me there's only 4 left? This underwater city is pretty damn big and there ain't nobody else? But in the flashback scenes, we see plenty of other kids, presumably the same age as our leads, so, what happened to everybody? You know what? Ultimately, it doesn't affect the story at all, so I'll just write it off as a plot hole and move on. Like I said, Nagi starts off pretty standard, but luckily it never feels stale. Say what you will about Mari Okada, but you can't deny that her stuff is never boring. Aside from the romance shenanigans, there's also a supernatural element at play involving a temperamental sea god. I can't really dive too much into that without spoiling some of the important parts from later on in the story, but it does assist with keeping things fresh and interesting. All that aside, what really stands out to me is Nagi presentation of the passage of time. Maybe a minor spoiler here, but I guess if you've heard anything about this show, you probably know that halfway through there is a time skip, and it is an absolutely masterful time skip. Unlike time skips in some other shows that might be tossed in to sweep some character building under the rug, this one here allows for characters to come to terms with themselves. The effect on the setting is also a standout and allows a viewer to feel more than to have the change smack you right in the face. It's kind of difficult to describe, but after this time skip, there's an air of, loneliness that just hangs around the characters and the places they go. Something I believe is kind of done deliberately in order to put us in the shoes of the main characters. It's excellent, and I think the showrunners deserve major credit for being able to imbue Nagi with such feeling. Oh, but the characters, the players in this game, how are they? Well, I have things to say. For starters, all the girls in this show fall down a lot. Like, a lot. It's super weird. Maybe their center of balance is just off from being underwater, but who the fuck knows. Anyway, let's start with Hikari, who I guess technically would be the main character. I'll be honest, he starts out this show incredibly grating, irritating, harsh, and generally unlikable. Around episode 4 or 5, I started to think to myself,
I want to throw you in the sea, you little brat hole.
Luckily, if you stick around all the way to the end, Hikari's growth really shows, and he goes from being a bratty little dipshit to a really good guy, which actually makes me appreciate the beginning of the show even more. Going back on the rewatches, you can start to pick up on the exact moments that make Hikari strive to be a better character. Next up is Menma. Now, Monica, excuse me, getting my Mari Okada token Moe Bait Lolly characters mixed up, which honestly tells you basically all you need to know about Monica right there. Honestly, she's the weakest link in this whole thing, which is a shame since she winds up being the crux of several important moments. I'm honestly reaching a little bit here and trying to find some good character moments. I guess maybe the way she comes to terms with her feelings around the halfway point, maybe. But then again, it shouldn't matter because...
Watch out, everyone. Best girl coming through. Basic bitches, get the fuck out of the way. We got a real one here.
Oh yeah, that's right. After, and I guess a little bit before the time skip too, Mina becomes my favorite character, and for good reason, because unlike Menma... God, not
fucking member.
Monica, she actually feels like a real person rather than just an archetype. Her chemistry with Hikari is really what sells her growth, going from always looking up at him to the two of them being able to interact with each other as equals. As things go on, the way Miana is able to come to terms with her feelings is handled exceptionally well. Chisaki is another character that starts as more of a secondary support to the leads, but as the show progresses and her emotions come into play, she becomes one of the more sympathetic characters of the cast. Post time skip, however, Chisaki becomes one of my favorites, as she deals with the fact that she's grown up and all of her friends are still frozen in the past. It's a fascinating dynamic that Nagiasu imposes on his cast, and much like Miana, Chisaki's character arc post-time skip really serves up loads of satisfying payoffs. Rounding out the leads, we have Kaname, who at first comes across as the cool-headed everyman that serves as the shoulder for all the other characters to cry on. Admittedly, I felt his shtick was getting a little old, and then another character completely calls him out on it, so it's a little meta in a way, but I found that it worked really well. Tsumugu is the last of the primary characters, and honestly, there's not really much to say about him. I mean, his character arc is a fairly standard one, but again, I feel like I'm repeating myself. Post-time skip, his maturity really shines through. Although maybe I did find some of his scenes near the end to be a little problematic, but you know, context matters, and I feel like his actions make sense in the situation that he found himself in. Now next would be the part where I talk about the animation, but honestly, if you've been watching this video for even a fraction of a second, you should be able to tell what I'm about to say for yourself. I'm sure since this is 2018 and the show came out in late 2013, you've already heard people talk about just how drop-dead stellar this thing looks. I'm not gonna beat the dead horse, but I will pose an interesting question. Can an aesthetic make or break a show? Personally, I think it can. A lot of my favorites are anime and manga that stand out because of the art and animation instead of the actual content. I know this isn't really related to this review at all, but just hear me out on this little tangent here. So I'll use one of my favorite manga artists as an example, Ogure Aito, or more infamously known as, oh, great. No one is racing to tell you that Air Gear and Tenja Tenji are absolute must-read manga, and to be honest, they're both pretty trashy, but I still really dig them based solely on the art. And that's not to say that Nagiasu's only redeeming quality is the art and animation, because, I mean, come on, have you been listening to me at all? What is this, Guilty Crown? Nagiasu's music is also a highlight that manages to shine through and caught my attention. Soft, calming, and making excellent use of an acoustic guitar to really match the vibe of the show. Yoshiaki Dewa's musical composition really elevates an already top-tier production. The soundtrack is also maximum comfy, and I mean like, oh man, seriously, put this on, open a window on a mid-70 degree day when the sun is out, have a hot bowl of soup to bring you one of the most wholesome experiences you've ever had. So apparently, while I was on my little hiatus, I gathered a following of over 100 of you, so, wow, thanks for that. The fact that over 100 people want to hear what I say is pretty damn cool and fulfilling, so just know that you guys are the realest of the realest. Also, London, my man, you've been here since the beginning and still comments on almost every single one of my videos. Also, if anyone wants to suggest something for me to check out, I'll gladly take y'all's suggestions. I'm gonna treat this video like a 100 sub special since it's probably gonna be a tad lengthier than my usual, I guess. And every milestone I'll make a video on one of my favorite anime. So, cool. Yeah. Hey, wow, geez, spoilers before the conclusion, damn. But yeah, I goddamn adore this show. The air of emotion and calm and relaxation that I feel watching this is a part of what kept me coming back. And the fact that the story and characters are also solid with the hooks on the line that just really reel me in. Sure, it's a hair over dramatic at times, and the beginning is, well, honestly not the greatest, but get past those first 4 or 5 episodes and you're in for a real gem. Or maybe a pearl if we're going to ocean-related topics. Do I recommend you watch Nagi no Asukara? That would be a resounding yes from me.